Mathematics for Parents. Welcome to Mathematics for Parents. My name is Dani, and if you let me, I would like to show you how with a little bit of effort on your end, you can help your child to become a superstar when it comes to mathematics. So now let's look into addition and subtraction as operations. The way we begin this video was the way that number bonds are talked in the classroom environment as if they were a storytelling. So children get engaged, a story has been told, they can work with different characters. If you remember the 5 little ducklings and the 2 ponds. So when the idea of addition and subtraction is introduced to the children is through, once again, a storytelling element. What do I mean by that? So have a look at this particular exercise that they will be using within classrooms. And this is how every time when children are referred to addition and subtraction, this type of methods and tasks will be presented to them in order for them to look at equations like this and know exactly what they're meant to be doing. The way that the story tasks are created is, so we have, for example, one child is sitting on its own on the swing. So first, that child was sitting alone on the swing. Then something else happened and another 3 children joined in. Now we have 4 children on the swings. The whole idea that we have a specific number, and to that number that we have looked into as a whole and something that we can divide into parts, now we are introducing the idea that you can add to that particular number. You can make it bigger or you can make it smaller. Games and tasks and exercises like this one, or the one with the bus. In the beginning there was no one on the bus, then a certain amount of children decided to join the bus. Now the bus has X amount of people who are on them. So this is something that we need to be thinking when we are helping our kid to practice addition and subtraction. This is the way that this information is presented to them. First, there was nothing or there was something in particular, then something else was introduced or it was removed, and now we have this answer. So if we're looking into these tasks, for example, the story or how we can encourage our child to know exactly what they're doing. So the idea here is, let's say 3 plus 6. So when we ask our kid to complete the calculation, what is 3 plus 6? We can start with, let's imagine that we are on a bus. What you need to do is 3 will be the first number. So first there will be 3 people on the bus, then another 6 will join. So how many people we're gonna have at on the bus now? The same thing we can do with equations or calculations that are performing the subtraction operation. Have this conversation, have these talks when you are helping your child practicing. But remember, number bonds are first. They come first. You need to make sure that your child has a solid knowledge and understanding of number bonds before you move into equations like this one or calculations like this one. And when you present your child with a piece of paper where he can see only the numerical representation and there isn't a story attached to it, you can just have a simple conversation with them. Let's pretend that all these equations will be a story, the story that we'll need to tell. You can use the bus. We have a bus, first, then, now. Always use those 3 words when you're performing practice with your kid in addition and subtraction. This is the way that the teacher will present the information to your child. This is the way that within the classroom environment, they will be encouraged to calculate, to do calculations and to solve equations or to write down equations. So there will always be a story. If we want to practice with our child, we need to follow that story, because once again, as I mentioned previously, structure is very important. If we just give our kid calculations like this one to complete without giving them the direction, without trying to get as close as possible to the way that the teacher is presenting that information within the classroom, they can get really confused. Why? Because, well, I can use the plus and the equal or the minus and the equal symbol representing part whole concept, or am I supposed to be doing addition and subtraction? What kind of operations I am required to do here? Bear in mind the children are only in year 1. They're introduced to a large volume of information. Most of it is not new to them, but it needs to be presented in the context of mathematics. Storytelling, discussions, reasoning, an explanation, and a dialogue between you and your child will be crucial if you want to be able to assist them with a little bit of effort and receive maximum results. So every time you want to practice, always keep that in mind. Whenever you're printing a list of worksheets or a task that you find on any type of resources online, the availability of resources online is just overwhelming. So the idea is, what do you want to practice with your child? You need to be aware of the way that information is presented to them within the classroom to be able to help them practice and solidify these skills and knowledge that they are obtaining. It is not complicated. You haven't done anything wrong so far. You simply weren't aware that this is the way that that information is presented. Now, however, you have the tools. You know, when somebody says, we need to practice number bonds more, you have the very clear idea and understanding what that means and what type of numerical equations and calculations you can present to your child and what kind of dialogue you can start in order to help them understand what they need to do with that worksheet. The same thing is, if you need to work a little bit more on addition and subtraction with your kid, help them understand it more, always think about it as a storyline where first it was a number, then something happens, whether we are adding or taking away, and now the results at the end of the equation will be any number given depending on the equation itself. It is important because many times we have been confused. We want to help our kids. We want to sit down with them and practice, but we are not aware of the way information is presented to them. Children can get frustrated during this particular period of time. They can say that they don't understand mathematics, or this is not how the teacher is explaining an activity that you are requesting your child to do. Hopefully, after this particular video, you will be much more confident in your abilities and your knowledge of how very easy with very little exercises to help your child to build that confidence and resilience. They will no longer feel confused when you try to work with them at home. As long as you set up the scene, you need to tell them what are they doing at the moment. A simple representation of equations, it's not enough for them. It doesn't follow the programs of studies and the way this materials is presented within the classroom. We don't need to know everything in enormous details, but simple elements like this one will be extremely helpful. Extremely helpful because the next step is adding and subtracting a 2-digit number with a single-digit number. And here is where most of the confusion, if the number bonds are not solidified, will start taking place. And here is the moment where the very first potential cracks in the foundation of year 1 can take place. what are we going to do now is prevent that from happening immediately. Two-digit numbers, if you remember when we were talking about number compositions, we looked through numbers from 11 to 20. The way that the number composition is presented to children, and they are encouraging to look at helpful materials to represent a two-digit number and its composition, was by the use of 10 frame. 10 frame will slowly morph into a place value chart. Using the 10 frame first as an example, where let's say we have the number 15. The number 15 is represented like this in using the 10 frame. So we have one element that has all 10 squares filled up, and that is our first group of 10, and this is representing the first number in the two-digit numbers. The second frame represents the second digit within the two-digit numbers and is referred to as the ones. So we have tens and we have ones. Further down the line, this particular method, within still year one, we're going to morph it into a place value chart where we have two columns. Column number 1 represents with a single digit how many groups of 10 we have within that two-digit number. And column number 2 represents how much is the number of the single value digits that we have. So we have tens and we have ones. So when a child is asked to perform addition or subtraction as operations, the place value chart will be extremely helpful for them. Remember, we are still in year one. We are demonstrating how concepts from day-to-day life can be put into the mathematical context. We are also using a lot of helpful materials, methods, objects, and numerical expression in order to represent different activities when it comes to mathematics. So place value chart will be enormous help for all children whenever they start facing the two-digit numbers. Further down the line, it's going to be we are adding two-digit number to another two-digit number, and we're going to be using the place value chart extremely often. So at the very first stage, when it's introduced to kids, it's important for us to help them understand what is place value, how is it, what kind of relationship it has with numbers, and how we can use the place value chart, a simple diagram, to help them learn to be more flexible and operate very quickly. So why number bonds are important? The place value chart, as we said, is two columns next to each other. A column that represents the number tens, the number of tens groups that are within the number, and the second column that represents the number of ones. When children are presented to this type of module, they will be encouraged to add and subtract using this type of style. So we have 10, and to this 10 we want to add another 5. The equation will look like this in a place value chart. So the children can see that in the column of the ones we have 0 plus 5, and that will give us the final digit from the two-digit number that we're looking for to find. In the column tens we have only 1, so it will be represented as if 1 plus 0. Those two separate equations that our children will be encouraged to perform are number bonds. That is why number bonds is so important and so crucial, because further down the line, when the numbers become larger and the operation become more complex, especially the addition and subtraction, children will have the tool to break that two-digit number into smaller parts, and using their very good skills in number bonds to be able to solve almost any equation. So once again, place value is very important when we come to addition and subtraction of two-digit numbers with a single-digit number or with another two-digit number. But in the basis of all, it's number bonds. That's why I'll have to stress one more time the importance of making sure your child has an excellent knowledge when it comes to number bonds. Don't worry, don't feel obliged to practice addition and subtraction using this type of equations and this type of calculations. Concentrate all your effort to make sure that your child understands the number bonds. You can only practice number bonds with the little ones all the way till end of year 1, and you still would have done a massive progress. You still would have stimulated and encouraged a massive progress within your child's education. That very first year, where a basic concept are laid as a solid foundation of your child understanding of the subject in mathematics. Hopefully that video was useful. I really hope that the information there within it is practical and you can actually see all the elements and how with a little bit of effort you can really achieve an enormous results within your child's ability to understand mathematics. Hopefully you yourself understand mathematics a little bit better in terms of the way it's presented to the little ones. Thank you for listening, and please do leave a comment below if any part of the video was unclear or you would like to see a video with a bit more detail on any element that we have covered so far. Leaving a comment will help us guide the content in a way that it will allow you with the minimum effort to help your child to become a superstar when it comes to mathematics. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you on the next video.